الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. One of the amazing miracles of the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the amazing reflections on the seerah of the Prophet is that for every difficulty, every situation, every hardship, every worry, every doubt that a person in this life can go through, we can find it parallel, going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can find a snapshot of everything we go through back in his life and the life of his companions. In every situation this ummah finds itself in, there is always a snapshot that goes back to the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is always something that we can fall back to as a safety net. And the fascinating part about this is that how long did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam preach Islam? How long was his mission? 23 years. So imagine an ummah, a nation of Muslims for 1400 years. Every single situation can be condensed back into his life of 23 years. What we see today, whether it's misinformation about Islam, whether it's persecution, genocide, political oppression, this all occurred within the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ and those after him. Because in their lives, in their lesson, or rather in their lives is a lesson. In their lives can we find comfort? Can we find relatability? Can we find an answer to what is going on? Why are we here? Where are we going? And how will we get there? And for today's khutbah, I wanted to focus on specific notions. Notions that we have constantly been reminded of. Notions that were taught at a young age. Notions that unfortunately some Muslims themselves perpetuate. And those notions are, as a Muslim, you should be afraid of your identity. As a Muslim, you should be suppressing your faith. As a Muslim, you people are inherently backwards. You people, where is your Lord in all of this, in all of the troubles you go through? Your Lord must have abandoned you. And for today's khutbah, considering these notions and attacks, it boils down to one thing, that many Muslims need motivation. Many Muslims need reassurance. They need to know what actually is the correct path. What is as-sirat al-mustaqim? Amidst the chaos of daily life, someone must stand up. Someone must say that I submit to the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Aslamtu li rabbil alameen. That I as Muslim worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I affirm the messengers and prophets that He has sent. As Muslims, as people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as people with sincere conviction, genuine belief that there is an afterlife, that there is a day of judgment, that we have good deeds and bad deeds and we work in this dunya for something better. This is in fact the hallmark of what it means to be a Muslim, that we are the number one group of people who sincerely believe and put into practice our faith. Then we realize, then we know, such notions, such doubts does not affect the validity of our religion, the validity of Islam. قُلْ إِي رَبِّي إِنَّهُ لَحَقٌّ. Say, yes, I make an oath by my Lord, this religion is the truth. So let's break it down. Let us as Muslims be firm in our faith. And for us to stay on board, I will only mention one surah. Today's khutbah is specifically on just one surah, an entire breakdown of that surah. But first we need to understand the background. We need to understand the context of the surah. In the early seerah, in the early days of revelation, in the early lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, when the Prophet was told that he now bears the responsibility of delivering the message of Islam, of La ilaha illallah, one by one the verses were coming in. Iqra. Initially the verses came in. Iqra, Mudaththir, Muzammil. Initially the Prophet ﷺ, like any other human being, was overwhelmed as to what is happening, what is going on in my life. All of a sudden, an angel descends upon you. You are now told that you are a messenger. This is your message, and you have to fully carry out the mission. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ enters that zone of comfort, once he settles down into exactly what he has to do, as soon as he does this, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of his divine wisdom do? What does Allah, with purpose, what does he do to the Prophet? Some scholars estimate for 6 months straight. 6 months straight, half a year, not a single verse came down, not a single ayah, no angel Gabriel, nothing, complete silence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had completely paused. He had completely stopped the revelation. And this was the first major spiritual crisis within the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So much so that it felt him to feel immense grief, immense sadness. Why has Allah stopped talking to me? I must have failed. Maybe I'm no longer worthy. These feelings of what we now call borderline depression, of anxiety, of sorrow, of sadness, it came to none other than the most blessed man to walk this earth, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Quraysh, the disbelievers at that time, they took no hesitation to mock the Prophet. They took no hesitation to make fun of the situation. Look at this man, they would say. Abu Lahab's wife, the aunt of the Prophet, she says, look at this man. Perhaps, where is your Quran? Where is your recitation? Perhaps your satanic companion, the one who was whispering these thoughts into your head, has abandoned you. And this really hurt him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then one day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds. وَالدُّهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَالَى. Allah makes an oath. He wants to draw attention to something, and He swears. He says, listen to what I'm about to say. By the morning, by the brightness, وَالدُّهَا. And it's clear what Allah is saying. In every society, in every culture, in every language, what does the new day symbolize? What does the rising sun symbolize? It's a new day, new opportunities, new hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. After darkness comes light. Don't look at what happened in the past. You now have a future ahead of you. The sun is coming up again. The sun, the morning time, the time of blessings, the time of barakah, the time of activity. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And the night, when you feel sakina, you feel calmness. The night, the time for rest. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَالَى. Your Lord has neither abandoned you, nor has He become hateful of you. No. Throw away the anxiety. Throw away the doubt. Throw away the worry. No Muslim is hated by Allah. How many times does Allah refer to Himself as Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim? The Wadud, the forgiver, the one who is the most loving, the one who gives constantly will gift you. Your Lord has neither abandoned you, nor has He become hateful of you. He is with you and He loves you. And while yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this chapter, in this verse, is speaking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this verse applies to every single person who believes in that Prophet, who says La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. This verse applies to every single believer. The Islamic outlook to life, O Muslim, is that even at your lowest, even when you think your du'as are not being accepted, even when this ummah is being tossed and turned and being given in the worst conditions, there is always a new day. It doesn't mean Allah hates us. It doesn't mean Allah hates you. It doesn't mean Allah has abandoned you. It doesn't mean Allah is unaware of what people think and say. Allah has a plan. You may not see it. You may not understand it. But you have to believe in it. You have to. You gotta trust the process. The Islamic outlook to life by default is that optimism, finding a way out of the worst situations, coming back to Allah, this is the default. This was the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a short time, for a short period, had paused the revelation. There was a wisdom. And if someone asks, well, why does life have to be this way? Why are we here in the first place? Why do we see the terrible things unfolding right in front of our eyes? We have no power to change it. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَىٰ. Because the next life is certainly far better than this life. The next life has things no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mouth has spoken of. And you will be well pleased, well satisfied in this dunya and the next. Get rid of the pessimism. Get rid of, I can't do this, I can't do that. And turn it into optimism. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. The future will be better than what has passed. It is a part of Iman, of your faith, to be optimistic, to have words of delight that tomorrow will perhaps be better than today. And even if it isn't better, even if that's the reality, ultimately it is only in the akhirah, in the afterlife, in the next life, that all debts will be repaid. It is only in that day when true justice will be served, and we have to keep that composure and patience until that day comes. How much injustice occurs in the earth, and seemingly those tyrants, those oppressors get away with it. Those criminals can do what they want, and they get away with it. It was, in fact, the angels themselves in the Quran that brought up the question of evil. They brought up the question of corruption. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first announced to the angels that He was going to create a new creation, this creation will be sent and placed on earth. This creation self-replicates. This creation carries out the commands of Allah. The angels asked, will you place on earth a creation that will spread corruption and spill blood? Well, we the angels sanctify your praises. Well, we the angels only worship you. In other words, you're placing something on earth that seemingly is inferior to us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That I know something you don't. I have a certain wisdom. I have a certain knowledge that you may not comprehend. The brain, the mind, though we think we know everything, is limited and finite. And that which is limited and finite cannot understand that which is unlimited, that which is infinite. So yes, while people may get away in this dunya, it's only for a short period. It's only temporary. Because one day we all have to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as for those innocent people who were wronged in this dunya, Allah says, the people of patience will be given rewards after rewards, بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, without a limit, without no questions asked. Those people will be continuously rewarded. So much so that a person who lived their life of difficulty, they lived their life waking up and a new problem came. In Jannah, once they experienced Jannah, once they entered paradise, all memory of what they went through on this earth would have faded away. And there's a hadith that talks about this. It'll be asked of those people, the people in paradise will have a conversation. And they say, did you experience any hardship in this world? Did you go through hunger? Did you go through persecution? Did you go through genocide, financial issues, suffering, whatever it may be? Did you go through anything in this dunya? One person's asking another person in paradise this question. And they'll say, no. Wallah, I never experienced anything. I swear to you, I never experienced anything. I just came here to Jannah. And then it will be reminded to that person, don't you remember the day when your son passed away? Don't you remember the day when your son had died and your hair had turned gray from the stress, from the problems that you faced on that day? Then that person of paradise will remember. And he'll say, I swear, after that day, I never experienced anything. After that day, I never experienced anything. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَىٰ. When this was a person who lived their entire life of difficulty and struggle. But what is to come will be better than what has passed by. The way this dunya works is that maybe whatever issue we're having, it may not be solved. That cancer won't be solved. That person with that health difficulty won't be cured. But the point being, this life is not the be-all, end-all. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَىٰ. And you may not be given exactly what you want, but at least you will be given something that keeps you content. That keeps you content, that keeps you satisfied. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَىٰ. So what have we learned so far? Spiritually, people feel that I'm not worthwhile. They feel that Allah does not love me, God has abandoned us. They feel all of these tumbling, slippery slope of negative thoughts. But in these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that you are worthwhile, that you are beloved, that God has not abandoned us. With a quick analysis, this religion appeals to every sense of our being, of our logic, of our rationality, of concluding what is true and what is not. And one of the mistakes many Muslims make is that they say, do not ask any questions. Just believe and don't ask any questions. Which is fair enough, but you have people who are skeptical and they have the right to question certain things. And if we are not the ones thinking critically, if we are not the ones asking questions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself will be the one asking those questions. Allah Himself, throughout the Quran, you find this. أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ أَلَمْ يَرَى أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Haven't you seen? Haven't you considered? Haven't you reflected and pondered? Will you not reason? Will you not then reflect and think? Don't limit this religion to simply, I can't do this, I can't eat that, I can't drink this. If you program yourself with such a tedious expectation of what Islam is, if you limit your Islam to what you can't do instead of what you can do, this type of thinking takes away from the impact of your worship. This type of thinking takes away from the overall message of Islam. It takes away from your ibadah, your spirituality, your conscience. This type of thinking, it takes away from the impact because you're so focused on the small, minute details, on the minutiae, that it takes away from the bigger picture of what Islam actually is. In Islam, let it appeal to a greater purpose in your life. Let it appeal to your words, actions, and mannerisms. Let it appeal to your daily life, to your connection with Allah and those around you. Allah does not intend hardship for us, rather He intends ease. And this is further emphasized, this is further explained in Surah Ad-Duha. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then poses 3 rhetorical questions to the Prophet. 3 rhetorical questions. And in literature, what is the purpose of a rhetorical question? To reinforce what we already know. To remind us something, to be alert of something we may have neglected or forgotten. It jars you, it gets your attention. So Allah asks, why would I have abandoned you? Why would you think I became hateful of you? أَلَمْ يَجِدَكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى. When your father had passed away, you had your mother. When your mother had passed away, you were only 6 years old, you had your grandfather. When your grandfather passed away, you had your uncle. In every sense of your life, you were an orphan, you were yatim, you were poor. But then, we provided for you in every stage of your life. Don't you remember this? وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَىٰ. And we found you lost, and we showed you the way. We gave you Islam, we gave you the message, we gave you your worship. وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَىٰ. The third rhetorical question. We found you poor. We found you no wealth, no status, no money. And then we enriched you. We gave you your wife Khadija. You inherited her business. You now have her wealth. You're now working as a partner, as a company. Look at the wealth I have given you. And going back to the surah, what is the meaning of these verses? What is Allah trying to convey? Anytime anything negative happens, you get let go from your job. It's hard to pay bills. You got a bad score on your exam. Anytime shaitan throws this thought of, oh my God, I can't do it, realize that there's always positives in your life that you're overlooking in that stage. There is always something in which Allah has favored you above other people. Some of the biggest blessings we have is in front of us right now, yet we choose to overlook it. How is it possible for a person to say, I have nothing going on for me? Allah doesn't help me. You're sitting in the wealthiest country, in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest of townships. You have the home, you have transportation, running water and electricity. How can you say, you know what, I guess Allah doesn't love me? And even if you don't have something, at least Allah has blessed you in one way or another. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you see something, you like it, you have desire for it, turn away. Don't look at what you don't have. Look at what you do have. So, this allows us, for example, to appreciate what Allah has given us above others. To appreciate our status quo. To appreciate that perhaps, okay, Allah does love me, I have to admit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these verses reminds us that each and every one of us is blessed and fortunate in our own ways. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Once you've understood everything that has been said before, once you have a new outlook on life, now you have a sense of self-respect. Don't just sit there, don't just do nothing. Get up and help the people around you. Get up and use your optimism, use your wisdom and knowledge and wealth to help others. خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of people are those who are useful to other people. Every one of us, without exception, has a purpose, has a benefit that we can give to others. In the case of the Prophet, Allah tells him, be kind to the orphan. Just as you were an orphan, and we helped you, and we blessed you, so too in gratitude, be gentle with the orphan. Don't hurt their feelings. Be there for them. Be someone in their life that they can look up to. It's free of charge. Be charitable. If you show mercy, if you show love, if you show forgiveness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reciprocate that love and forgiveness and mercy to you. The people will return that love to you. And as for the beggar, as for the person that comes up to you, they need sincere help. Don't turn them away harshly. Even if you're not going to give them something, turn them away gently. Turn them away gently. And say, لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. That we don't ask anything in return. All we ask for is Allah's satisfaction. We may love our food, we love our wealth, but despite our love for it, we give it away. And as for the blessings of Islam, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Talk about your blessings. Mention your blessings. Meaning, despite your difficulties, always have a way to speak positive. Always find yourself out of a difficult situation. And even if you can't, say alhamdulillah, or rather be in a state of patience or a sabr. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Tell the people about the positive. Thank Allah for the good. If you try to count the goods in your life, you wouldn't be able to. If you try to count the blessings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, you wouldn't be able to. Not the negatives. You wouldn't be able to count the positives. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, which can also mean, tell people about the biggest blessing, which is none other than Islam. Be an ambassador of Islam. Talk about Islam. Represent Islam through your appearance, through your actions, through your words. Because sometimes your actions are greater than your words. Is it not because you are showing that you put into practice what you believe? And through society, through religion, through Allah and other people, you will find meaning. وَأَقُولُ قَوْلِي هَذَا وَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ. The Surah Ad-Duha is 11 verses. The first two, Allah is making a swear, a qasam, swearing that what will come will be better than what has passed. It's a new day, it's new opportunities. The next three verses, Allah is removing the spiritual weakness we have within ourselves. Removing thoughts that Allah does not like us, Allah has abandoned us, I don't have a relationship with Allah. The next three verses, removing the feelings of being unlucky, removing the feelings of being ungrateful. And the final three verses, Allah concludes the surah. Take something negative and channel it into positivity. Do something good for the people around you. Do something for the sake of Islam. Don't just sit there static, and you will find through this purpose and meaning in Islam. The same way you and I, we as one body of Muslims, have had many things taken away from us. Many things we have lost, especially over the past months. It's only then we see the importance of what has been taken away. We see the value of what is taken away. It's only then that perhaps you and I may wake up and rebuild what we have lost, but this time on a better foundation, on a foundation of unity, of realizing that our iman, our faith, is thicker than blood. This time, rebuilding our foundation, knowing that you and I are Muslims working towards one goal. This is not the time to fail in our faith. And I conclude with that. وقال ربكم ادعوني استجب لكم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين وحد حوزة الإسلام يا رب العالمين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة